These are my ideas for a four-stage beginning to the live-action Warhammer 40K TV universe. All show titles are imaginary working titles and subject to imaginary changes. Please feel free to share your ideas, criticisms, and questions. Hopefully, I will have answered a few at the end. Year 1. Welcome to the Imperial Guard, Season 1. We get to follow a newly raised regiment and their introduction into a universe far greater than they could possibly have imagined, as they are shipped straight to a planet at war. We would join these fresh recruits as they leave their lives behind and are shuttled off planet to a waiting battleship where their training begins. Training to be a guardsman consists not only of learning military tactics and basic weapon maintenance, but also about learning one's duty to the Emperor of Mankind, and with the regiment being a mix of conscripts and volunteers, reactions will be mixed. During the training and travel, the regiment will have to deal with many new experiences. Trading stories with other regiments on board, the friction between Navy and Army personnel, commissars threatening punishment for those thinking wrong thoughts, warp travel and the nightmares that come with it, the realization that they are traveling on a ship that is bigger and more populated than many cities, the communities that have formed in the bowels of the ship, reminding the soldiers of the lives they've left behind. One of their last new experiences is the sight of a planet under siege, a sight which sticks in their minds as they are launched down, through hostile skies, to join the battle-worn forces already on the planet. As they are ordered over the top and into their first battle, which of their experiences will carry them through? Duty to the Emperor, the unity of fighting side by side as part of a team, the desire to see home again, the threat of a commissar's judgment, or will the hell that is war break them? Punishment duty, Season 1. A penal legion is thrown into the least welcoming places the universe has to offer. With the Colonel keeping secrets, the entire universe out for their blood, and psychopathic killers in their midst, the body count is going to rise and the chance of survival is going to sink. We would meet the Legion as the Colonel is explaining their situation to them in no uncertain terms. They are criminals. They have disgraced the uniform, let down humanity whom they swore to defend, and worst of all, they are disappointments in the eyes of the Emperor. It is now the Colonel's duty to see that they redeem themselves, and the Colonel never fails in his duty. As punishment and a chance at redemption, the Colonel promises to lead them on missions where the only options are death or success. He will lead them into the tunnels of a mining moon where they will face subterranean horrors. He will lead them in a charge against fortified enemy compounds with no support. He will lead them to investigate a Death World research facility that has gone silent and where the killers may still be waiting. He will lead them to destroy a recently discovered alien structure. Along the way, the soldiers will realize that after every successful mission, there will be another that promises death, and with death being the only promise in their future, many will feel free to be their true selves. With no need for social niceties and the fight for survival being the only fight that matters, we will see how far these criminals are willing to go to keep breathing and how they choose to enjoy every last breath. As their numbers drop and the survivors find themselves relying more and more on those they can't trust, they come to the conclusion that the Colonel is keeping a secret. Will any of them fight hard enough to survive, or will they all die on the Colonel's crusade? Redemption through duty or death. Part 2. Welcome to the Imperial Guard, Season 2. Fresh out of the fire of their first taste of real combat, the regiment is selected to lead the assault on an enemy-held city. As they advance, they come to find not all is as it seems, and mysterious strangers enter the story with their own agendas. After their first battle and barely before they have had a chance to recover and catch their breath, they receive news that their battle line is being redeployed, and that means going through the enemy. So once more over the top they go, charging towards an enemy only too keen to engage them. As the two battle lines clash for the second time in as many days, a pair of objects drop from the sky, as if sent from the Emperor himself. Erupting from the objects with hails of bolter fire, stride 10 beings made to take the fight to the enemies of mankind. With these powerful Astartes leading the charge, it isn't long before the redeployment can begin. And so the regiment finds itself, alongside others, facing a fortified enemy-held city. After deployment and deliberation, our regiment is selected to be the tip of the assault, which leads to them advancing into the city where communication with the main line is disrupted. As they continue to advance, they find the enemy acting anything but normal. As the strangeness grows, a new voice comes over the comms, transmitting extremely high clearance codes and giving new orders. Following these orders will mean possibly dealing with things that mortal minds are not meant to deal with. Will following these new orders jeopardize the assault on the city? Would refusing the orders make powerful enemies? Cut off from allies, surrounded by enemies, and with mysterious orders, the regiment is going to need more help from the Emperor to make it out of this one. Psyker, this short psycho trip series, will showcase the mental journey of a touched mind, affected by influences inside and out, as it tries to find a truth. The series will follow a tortured mind as it dips in and out of reality, reliving the moments where its power was first revealed. During this quest for understanding, our Psyker isn't alone. Various figures wearing various guises are always nearby, asking questions, making demands, and offering bargains. But when they keep altering the scenery, altering the memories, how can anyone or anything be trusted? Does the truth of the past matter when the chaos gods are offering a brighter future? And with the God Emperor of mankind demanding sacrifice, is the righteous choice the right choice? While this battle of gods is taking place in the mind, there are other questions. Where is the Psyker's body and what is being done to it? Punishment Duty, Season 2. The Colonel leads a hand-picked squad of hardened criminals on a mission to kidnap a corrupt government official. The Colonel leads his squad into a city where they will need to find a place to lay low while they gather their needed supplies. Gathering supplies should be a simple task, but these are criminals with limited freedoms and even more limited social filters. It isn't long before some of them find themselves being hunted by the Arbuts. Now, being branded as criminals is nothing new to these people, but it is going to make their plan to assault the government buildings a lot harder, especially when only the Colonel knows the full plan and he's keeping secrets. After a surprise-filled assault and kidnapping, the squad find themselves branded as terrorists and start questioning the Colonel's escape plan. Does the Colonel intend to get them all off the planet or just himself and the prisoner? With the city out to get them and their chances of success shrinking, who's going to make a break for freedom and who is going to continue trusting the Colonel's obviously suicidal escape plan? With so many important things fighting for their attention, there are a few questions none of them have asked. Who are they kidnapping this person for, and what are they going to do with them? Phase C, Welcome to the Imperial Guard, Season 3. When the planetary capital has its orbital defenses knocked offline, the regiment and all nearby Imperial forces are called upon to defend it from the incoming enemy forces. With a large contingent of space wolves answering the call, the battle for the planet will take place within the city, and it will be bloody. After watching the bombardment of the capital from afar, the regiment finds itself racing enemy forces to reach the besieged city. They will find themselves in a running skirmish with the enemy as they try to join up with other regiments. Once they join up with the Imperial battle line, we will see guard politics come into play. Even with the fate of a planet at stake, many officers and regiments will still vie with each other for positions of glory and honor. The arriving space wolves will look at this behavior with disdain and generally disregard the Imperial Guard command structure. With many key points to be taken, fought over and held, the regiment will find itself scattered across the city. Among the growing list of problems facing the regiment is the remaining civilian population. With citizens to keep safe, a city to save, the orbital defenses to get back online, and the enemy coming from every direction, now is the time for heroes to rise. The regiment will need to prove themselves in front of other regiments, in front of the Astartes, and in the eyes of the Emperor, all before the planet falls. Sororitas, Season 1. A bastion of sisterhood finds its faith and dedication questioned when the local population finds itself plagued by corruption, and all signs point to the sisters. We are introduced to the sisters as a central part of their surrounding community, running local clinics and schools, offering advice and guidance to those who need it. Once we get to know a few sisters and their roles, we get to hear rumors of strangeness, which then shows off the investigative methods used by the sisters. While many investigations lead to quick, effective, sometimes fiery conclusions, or get written off as paranoid suspicions by a religion-based community, there is a sense of a deeper, uneasy problem hiding in the shadows. As the unease mounts in dead, mutilated civilians start turning up. Investigations reveal that all the victims are connected in some way to the sisters. As the civilians start to feel more threatened by the sisters than protected by them, local authority and political figures move to take advantage. As the sisters turn their investigations inwards, many sisters find their anger mounting as their faith and dedication are called into question. The situation reaches a turning point when the mutilated corpse of a sister turns up on public display. No longer able to defend themselves or others, and apparently harboring a monstrous killer, the sisters find themselves under attack as those they once protected turn against them. Will they be able to root out the corruption, or will they be forced to turn their fire on innocent emperor worshipping civilians? Holy Order, Malleus, Season 1. An inquisitor and their retinue, on the trail of a demonic entity, find themselves drawn into local politics as they investigate ritual murders. An inquisitor, having recently recruited fresh members to her retinue, is back in pursuit of her target, a demon who has been leaving behind a trail of dead bodies and corrupted followers. Landing on a planet where the demon has taken shelter, the Inquisitor begins investigating anything that may lead to their quarry. When the clues start pointing to the ruling class, and due to the demonic nature of the enemy, the Inquisitor and her team must exercise discretion and restraint. Not easy to do when a new team member engenders distrust and outside forces are seeking to use the investigation to pursue their own agendas. With political intrigue slowing down the pursuit, a more imminent threat rears its head. Dealing with this threat is going to require additional forces that are not likely to survive the encounter or the secrecy required when dealing with the demonic. With warp forces at play and team members untested, the Inquisitor is going to find themselves mentally and physically pushed to their limits. Punishment Duty, Season 3. An Inquisitor calls upon the Colonel and some of his more talented criminals to assist him in putting a stop to a supply of warp-tainted, rage-inducing drugs. An Inquisitor, currently finding himself short-handed, calls upon the reliable Colonel to assist him and provide some additional team members. Members of the Inquisitor's retinue take an immediate dislike to the convicts, who show contempt and amusement in response. After blending their skill sets to make some shady drug buys and doing some covert tales, they find the location of some gang-held stash houses. Flexing the Inquisitor's authority to requisition Arbit assistance, they assault the stash houses, bringing their unique styles to the operation. Using information gained from the raids and having created a scarcity of the drug, the Inquisitor follows leads that point to underground fights, where the competitors are drugged up to produce brutal results. With the convicts competing, the Inquisitor seizes the chance to gain more information on where the drugs are being supplied from. Following the trail to its source leads to a gathering of drug-fueled chaotic worshippers, an object of corrupted power, and a whole lot of blood. With the way out being through the enemy, and with the Inquisitor's party viewing the criminals as expendable, the convicts are going to have to dig deep and embrace violence to make it out of this alive. Fourth quarter, Children of Fenris. Having suffered many casualties in their campaigns, we join the Space Wolves as they induct fresh recruits into their ranks. We would follow these recruits as they go from being a mere human and going through the processes of surgery, indoctrination, conditioning, and training before culminating in the test of Morkai. These new recruits would join their brothers on the field of battle, where the Space Wolves' loose regard for the Codex Astartes will cause them to butt heads with a more rigidly minded chapter. Sororitas, Season 2. With the enemy unmasked and the fight coming at the sisters from all angles, the sisters look to renew their faith with fire and fury. This show of dedication is witnessed and responded to by the Black Templars, offering their assistance to the faithful. Holy Order, Malleus, Season 2. With the Inquisitor and her team reeling from recent events, they find there is no time to rest. When other Inquisitors view her current state as a weakness, forces both helpful and malicious move in the shadows to take advantage. And let's not forget about the demon and its worshippers spreading chaos across the stars. Punishment Duty, Season 4. The Colonel leads a mix of seasoned and fresh recruits on what seems like a simple diplomatic mission. But it is the Colonel, and it is a mission into a hive city in the middle of a planet-wide war. And if they are not careful, They may just bring the whole hive down on top of them. Now I'll answer a few questions that I think will be asked. Why start with the Imperial Guard? Why not Space Marines, Custodes, etc.? Guardsmen are the most numerous fighting force in the universe, and, being normal humans, are more relatable for the audience. This will allow a power scale baseline to be set and gives a smoother entryway into the universe. Nobody wants to see a Space Marine storyline hit pause for exposition dumps about Geller Fields or servitors, but a guardsman's ignorance allows them and new audience members to explore the universe together. Also, if you start with a force that is too strong, you run the risk of making other forces and threats seem boring by comparison. Why would you not start with some much-loved, well-known characters? Because they are much loved and this live-action universe is a big new venture. If they have to make changes to these characters or their storylines to fit them in, and those changes don't land well, it could sink the ship at the start of its journey. Also, the well-known characters in 40,000 are, perhaps, not as well-known as Marvel or DC characters, and yet the 40,000 universe is arguably larger. My personal preference is that the universe lands on its feet first, and then we can still look forward to these characters making appearances along the way. Besides, the 40,000 universe is always large enough for new characters and stories. Where are the shows from the Xeno's point of view? With how different the 41st millennium is compared to our current one, I feel it would be best to set the tone of the universe first. While many GW fans know the setting and would love to explore the Xeno stories, creating a live-action universe is going to require reaching and welcoming a larger audience. Setting the tone of the Imperium will make it easier to show off similarities and differences between the races without having to be painfully blunt. To get as many stories as we'd like to see on the screen, we are going to have to welcome newcomers to the 40,000 universe with open arms. Why don't all of the shows appear to be tied to a central storyline? The simple answer is that they aren't. There is some crossover between some of the shows. I feel that tying all of the shows together places a burden on the audience and adds constraints to the storytellers. Besides, the 40,000 universe happens over such a span of time and distance that some of the best stories never come close to each other. Now, I'm not going to ask you to subscribe. I'm not a video creator, but please, let me know your thoughts. Discuss this with your friends and let me know their thoughts. Whatever you do, thanks for watching, stay safe, and have fun.